practicing, that's fine, but I'm starting to develop some actual emotions here, so bye. I said, I don't think even you're that shallow. And his friend said, you don't know him like I do. But anyway, back to my story. So she says, I'm dating this guy for 2 years, and I fall in love. So I said, yeah. He goes, well, I knew that I would intermarry because my Judaism is so important to me. So I told him if he would convert, then I'd marry him. Typical Jewish response. We hope that nobody else cares about their religion either. So you convert and I'll marry you. So he agrees. And he goes, signs up for a 6-month conversion course. It was a conservative conversion course, 6 months, fine. In the meantime, she relocates to his city. They move in together. They open up joint bank accounts. They settle in. He starts the course. He's halfway through and he says to her, I can't go through with this. She says, what do you mean? He says, I didn't realize my parents would be so upset. I didn't realize that my Catholicism really meant so much to me. I can't go through with it. If you want, I'll marry you the way you are. You'll be Jewish and I'll be Catholic. If you want, you could convert to Catholicism, but I can't go through with it. So she looks at me with tears in her eyes and she says, that was last week, and I just broke off my engagement, and that's why this topic is so painful for me. And I said to her, why did you break it off? Now, for those of you considering a career in the rabbinate, that's the wrong answer. You're supposed to say, good for you, proud Jew. You might want to jot that down. Yeah, but I didn't pay that much attention in rabbinical training class. So she says, I broke it off. And I said, why? She's like, because my Judaism means so much to me. I said, what does that mean? The holidays. I said, you could be intermarried and have a Passover Seder. You can find online a Haggadah for the intermarried couple. You could be intermarried and have a menorah and a Christmas tree. Yeah, 1 year the best selling present for the intermarried couple was a big Jewish star to put on top of your Christmas tree. You understand? It's not a problem. I was in Bed Bath & Beyond in December. I have to catch it while they're still open. And, they had the whole Hanukkah section. They had a Hanukkah wreath. And they had Hanukkah stockings. It was gewaldic. You know what I mean? Harry Hanukkah comes down the chimney. Hoi, hoi, hoi. But anyway, so I said, you could be intermarried and have a menorah. You could be intermarried and go to the high holidays. What does it mean? And she says to me, I don't know. And I asked her a question that we've all heard since the time we were kids, but she had never heard the question. I said, what would you do if someone pulls out a gun and says, Jew, convert, or die? What would you do? And she thinks about it, and she looks at me and she says, I would let myself be killed. And I said to her, never. You broke up with the man you love. You prepared to die for something, and you have no idea what it is. You can't tell me what it is or why you want to die. Just, I'm willing to die for my Judaism. But you can't tell me what Judaism is. And suddenly I realized that that's why Rashi, 1,000 years ago, brought the Medrash from 2,000 years ago to explain the Pasuk from 3,000 years ago, because it has a message for us today. And that is that Avram Avinu went into that fiery furnace because he believed there was something in this world important enough to die for. And Haran went in for only one reason, because Avraham did. If we gain nothing else, I think it's worthwhile. Don't go into a furnace. It's very hot and you could die. You understand? But you went in because he went in? Or as my mother used to say, if everybody jumped off the building, you jump off the building? Yeah. That's no reason for you to do something. And yet, you can try this on your own. I always say, never take my word for anything. Go and check it out and see if what I'm saying makes sense. Ask the average Jew who still considers themselves a Jew and say, why are you a Jew? So my parents were Jewish. And why were your parents Jewish? Their parents were Jewish. Their parents were Jewish. And their parents were Jewish. Tradition! Tradition! And you'll ask me, how did it get started? I don't know. That's it. Fiddle on the roof. Most people were Jewish because they were born Jewish. And I asked audiences over the years, I said, and what if you were born Christian? I'd be Christian. What if you were born Muslim? I'd be Muslim. I happen to have been born a Jew. Now that's a sad story. I'd like to follow it up with a sadder one. Woody Allen once said, I want to leave you on a positive note, but I don't have one, so I'll give you 2 negatives. Anyway, I lived in a large Orthodox Jewish community someplace in the United States. I don't want to say where. People always get upset when I mention their community. I lived in a large, and it was a large Orthodox shul, and like most Orthodox shuls, it had a youth program. And the purpose of the youth program, ultimately, is to keep the children out of shul. because if they come to shul, then they run around, or they talk, or they make noise, and then the parents can't hear themselves talk. Daven. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you take a bunch of teenagers who haven't davened in years anyway, and they take the little kids downstairs, and they tell them stories, they have relay races, they give them treats, and that's it, it works. But you got to do something for the teenagers. Now, these teenagers all went to some of the finest Jewish day schools in the New York area. Whoops. Anyway, whatever. And they had very busy schedules, a lot of reports to write, a lot of things to do. And, they didn't have a lot of spare time. The only dead time in their week was Friday night, because they all came from families that kept Shabbos, kept kosher, right? So they would have an Oneg Shabbos. I don't know how many of you have ever been to an Oneg Shabbos. An Oneg Shabbos is basically a social event where everyone gets together, the guys and girls, to talk and have refreshments, but you have to pretend that there's a program. So the first one of the year, they always bring the synagogue rabbi. This is not your rabbi. I've done this for years, and people always say, why are you making fun of my rabbi? I don't know your rabbi. I invented this rabbi. I was once in a community where they asked me to substitute for the rabbi, and I did my impersonation of this rabbi. I have no idea who he is, but I have met him. Shabbat Shalom to all the young people gathered here tonight. This week's Torah portion is a story of the ages. It is a story of courage and of pathos. It is a story that I believe will touch the lives of all the young people here tonight. And one by one, everyone falls asleep. Now, there's a fact to anybody who's in education. Girls are just nicer than guys. When a girl falls asleep in a class, she at least has the decency to feel guilty about it. She pretends she's thinking. Guys just throw their head back. One by one, they start falling asleep, and soon the rabbi falls asleep, and about 10 o'clock, the mother wakes everyone up and sends them home. It's a big success, yeah. But you can't bring the rabbi every week. He has to put his own family to bed. So, my son says to me all the time, it's a good thing you don't speak in Hebrew, because there'd be signs up about you all the time. Anyway, but so the job of the youth director is to bring in somebody that keeps the young people's attention for the allotted amount of time, which is about 6 to 8 minutes. After that, they start throwing pretzel nuggets at you, so you got to move fast, right? Okay. So they bring in the same cast of characters. I've lived in different communities. They'll have a doctor doing research into disgusting diseases. That's always fun. Look at the fungus in his mouth. Is that horrible? Here, pass this around, Look how her leg blew up. That's elephantitis. Disgusting. Here, pass this around. I put an actual human hand. Here, pass this around. That's good. Gross the kids out for a few minutes. That's fine, Oh, they'll bring some lawyer to speak about some case in the news that nobody cares about, but you'll pretend to listen because you might ask him for a job one day, Oh, they'll bring a businessman to speak about business ethics and other oxymorons like military intelligence. But anyway, it's about March, and they've burned through everybody in the community. So they bring in this guy to speak about his recent trip to Romania. What could be more fun for teenagers? The synagogues in Bucharest have sort of like a Muslim influence. There's like domes, and the kids are like, make it stop! Oh my God, make it stop! They say to the youth director, one more like that, we're never coming back. So I had the bad luck that week. I see him, and he remembers I owe him a favor. He goes, you owe me a favor. I said, okay, what do you want? I want you to be the sacrificial speaker at the Oneg. I said, I'd rather give you a kidney. He says, you don't get off so easy. The kidney, it's out, This is going to, I said, just go in there, 6 to 8 minutes. I don't care what you do. Just don't bore them, and just get in and get out. They just want to socialize, and we have to pretend we have a program. Right, okay. So everyone knows how these things work if you've ever gone. It's called, for 8 o'clock, one boy shows up at 8 o'clock, Myron. You know Myron. Parts his hair in the middle, trousers don't quite reach the socks, his voice hasn't finished changing. Spends the night in the kitchen with the mother. Can I refill the chips, Mrs. Schwartz? Everybody else is hovering outside because everyone knows if you show up too early, everyone knows you have no life. So it could be 40 below zero and hailing, and they're all huddled. And they finally come in, and they put on the excited teenager look. I would rather be anywhere than here listening to you. You understand? So I walk in, and he says, go ahead, 6 to 8 minutes, just don't bore them. So I was like, okay, let's work fast. I know they all go to the finest yeshiva high schools. They all come from families with Shabbos and kosher. I said, my friends, I'm offering you a challenge. I'm going to put 2 buttons in front of you. Push the button on your left, and you'll wake up tomorrow morning a nice non-Jewish kid in a non-Jewish family. You've never been Jewish. Same socioeconomic strata. Push the button on the right, you'll stay the way you are. I said, my guess is, based on going around to your Jewish schools, that 60 to 70% of the kids in your schools would push the button on the left and choose not to be Jewish. Yeah. Confrontation, that's always exciting. People like to argue. And they all just look at me. I said, what? He says, Rabbi, how could you talk to us like that? Everybody would push the button on the left. So it's a Friday night, and I'm in a room full of yeshiva kids who would all rather be Christian. So I said, why is that? And that's so unfair, because I'm asking yeshiva teenagers to think, which we train you not to do. It takes years. But by the time you're in high school, nobody in yeshiva knows how to think anymore. You know this. It started in 4th grade. The Mora comes in, 100, 150 years old. You know, the yellowed notes disintegrating in her hands, you know. She learned Chumash and Rashi with Rashi. You know what I mean? Okay, Yiladim, what's the most important mitzvah in the Torah? Shabbos, very good. We're looking for something else. Kashrut, very good. Something else. Chesed, ooh, good. No, something else. So it dawns on one of the brighter kids, she doesn't care what I'm thinking. We have to guess what she wrote in her notes. Oh, it's Pashas Vayera. Hachnosas Orchim. Excellent. What's your name? Steve? Let's write that down. Steve. And where do we find this best illustrated? Steve? The story of Abraham and the Malachim. That's right. Now open your Chumashim. So it takes everybody a while to figure it out. But by the time in your high school, every teenager knows you never answer a question honestly. You look at the adult and figure out what they want them to say. Oh, come on, you're already in yeshiva, so we can tell the truth. Everybody went for their interview. I'm looking for a place where I can grow. A friend of mine was doing interviews, you know, and like after the 8th kid said, I'm looking for a place I could grow. He's like, why, what's wrong with you now? Nothing. Then what do you want to grow? I don't know. You look at an adult and you try to figure out what they want you to say, but you're not actually thinking about anything, you know. Teenagers are the most insincere people in the entire world, you know. I remember once they were caught cheating on a test, a particular class, and the principal comes in. And he's like, I can't believe you're cheating on a test in a yeshiva. Do you know why you shouldn't cheat on tests? Yes, Stephen? Because we're only cheating ourselves. It was so sincere, it brought a tear to my eye, you know. Stephen really nailed it. Anyway, but, so I'm in a room full of kids who would all rather be Christian. And I said, why is that? And they're looking at me, what does he want me to say? And I'll say, I'll make it easy for you. You hate being Jewish. Oh, you can't say that. It's true, but you can't say it. So this one girl says, it's not true. I love keeping Shabbos. It's the only day I get to sleep. Now that says it all right there. I heard somebody describe the perfect Shabbos. You know, you wait for your dad to come home from shul, and then he falls asleep at the Shabbos table reading the paper, and then in the winter you can be in bed by like 6:30. Oh, it's great. You know, you put on fuzzy socks, you open the window a little bit, and you're just like, you're not even used to it, you know? You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning in a panic, you go to the kitchen, have a snack, read the sports section, goes back to bed, wake up about 11, catch the end of davening, have lunch, take another nap, and then it's over. What a spiritual odyssey. The way the average frum Jew keeps Shabbos, it's indistinguishable from being in a coma, you know? She says, I love being Jewish. Shabbos is the only day I get to sleep. I said, I don't know how to break this to you, but non-Jews turn off their phone and take a nap. She was devastated. I just took away her only reason for being from. I said, why? What do you like? Oh, I know, because there's so many things you can't eat. No, I know, because there's so much things you can't do on Shabbos. No, I know, because you really love learning a tosfos. No, I know. They're like, you're right, we all hate it. We all hate it. So why do you have to do it? Okay, figure they're in the 9th, 10th grade, at least $250,000 has been invested in their Jewish education. Here's the answer. Why do you have to be Jewish? My parents make me. Why? Because their parents made them, and their parents made them. Tradition! And suddenly I realized whether a person had the best Jewish education we could provide, or they were someone with no education struggling with intermarriage, when you ask them the simplest question, why should I be a Jew? They give the same answer as Haran. Because I was born Jewish. And if I was born Christian, I'd be Christian. If I was born Muslim, I'd be Muslim. And it happens to be I was born a Jew. This is the problem. And the problem is, and you know this better than me, yeah? The fastest growing group of the Jewish people is not Reform or Conservative or Orthodox or New Age or Hasidus, yeah? The fastest growing group is disaffiliated. Every 10 years they do a population study and more people drop out. Why? Because they ask the question, why should I be a Jew? And they don't get an answer. So I looked at my time, okay, I'm done, 6 to 8 minutes. And I start to leave, and one of the kids says, no, Rabbi, we know the rule. You can challenge us, you can make us feel uncomfortable, and then in the end, you have to leave us with a self-satisfying message so we can forget that we've ever heard of you. You understand? I don't want to be left with any angst. I said, well, you've all had a quality Jewish education. Tell me, why should you be a Jew? So a guy says, oh, I know why. Because otherwise, God will burn you in hell. Now, there was the first positive message that I ever heard, and I'm sure everybody here has heard this. If you want to really appreciate it, you had to have, like I did, a Rebbe from Flatbush. You're going boom. I mean, mums, boom. You know what I mean? Yeah. Take a lighter. Put your finger here. Put your finger. Now multiply that 60 times. That's what's waiting for you. Huh? Your mom's going to burn. You think it's a joke. I'm telling you, you're going to burn. Gosh. Talking about depressing. Yeah? Well, that's that joyous time of year that we all look forward to, the Yom Narayim. Yeah? We can't wait for that. Hello! The life and death are being opened. Where do you think you're going to go? Now, when I was a kid, I grew up, and my father used to drag me to shul, and we used to take me to shul on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and we had a chazan. And those of you who enjoy chazanas, I have nothing but the greatest respect for you. I wanted to eat my own arm. To this day, I hear a chazan, I want to kill myself. I just, he'd be up front going, and the choir would go, amen, amen. And I'd be moving my foot from one side to the other. Oh my gosh, I can't take any more of this, Thinking I can go to the bathroom again. The last time my dad sent someone to find me, what I mean? I used to just sit there and count the pages, 800 pages, I'm never going to make it, And then I realized half of them are in English. It's only 400 pages. We'll be out of here in no time. Let me see, he's just spent 10 minutes on this word. I don't think we go home till Hanukkah. You understand? But the idea is that if you could stay in shul long enough and listen to the chazan, God felt so bad for you, he forgave all your sins. You understand? You don't have to go to hell, you've already been there. You understand? But then you get older, and you start actually reading the tefillah, it gets much worse. You understand? When it's just an endurance test, okay, but you start understanding what's going on, looking in the English, My father would always say, where's the place? I never knew where the place was, because every chazan has this trick where they spend 10 minutes on a word, and then they go, flipping pages, And the art school, which has this great idea of putting all the dark writing in dark gray boxes, clever, and you're trying to read, it says, this is said on alternate Tuesdays. I mean, what does that even mean? It's like, flipping the pages, So my father says, this is the sign of Tokef. Pay attention. This is important, yeah? So the chazan is up there, singing. They all wait for the sign of Tokef. Oh, me yamus. Now, there was a subtle message there, and I don't know if you picked it up. I was a teenager. I understood what he was saying. Someone might live, but you're gonna die. And the choir goes, die, 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 die. I was a teenager. I was like, I'm gonna die? What a bummer, you know? Well, wait, now you get to pick the way you're gonna go. Who by fire and who by water? Well, fire's kind of hot, you know? Could probably tread water for a while, you know what I mean? Who by sword and who by storm? Oh, I saw the Wizard of Oz, that's not so bad, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll fall on a witch, you know then? Who by earthquake and who by pestilence? I don't know, what is pestilence? Never met anyone who died of pestilence. We'll take the pestilence, Bob. But the message is pretty clear, and that is you're going to die a horrible death because you're a miserable sinner unless you repent. Repent! Get down on your hands and knees and cry and beg, and then you could get off with just a serious illness. So everyone walks around depressed. Hey, Dad, what's with the apple and honey? For a sweet year. How does it look? Not too good. Yom Kippur came out in the middle of the week. We never went to synagogue, you know, sometimes on Saturday, you know, but so it's Yom Kippur. I'm wearing a suit. It was like a Wednesday. And one of my non-Jewish friends says to me, hey, Dave, where you going? I said, well, it's a special holiday. I have to go to synagogue today and afflict myself. Why? Because I'm evil. Oh, all right. Will I see you tomorrow? I have no idea. Just between me and you, did you hear anything about the pestilence? No? Should have taken earthquake. What was I thinking? And so that's what it comes down to. People with no education tell you they're Jewish because, and that's the number one answer, and people who've had a little more Jewish education will tell you, because otherwise you'll burn in hell. But it's not working anymore. Yeah. Somebody says to a kid, you know, you got to be Jewish. Why? Because you were born Jewish. So, I'm the first smart Jew in 3,000 years. I just figured out I don't have to do this. But then you'll burn in hell. I don't believe in hell. Then you'll really burn in hell. You understand? I'll bury myself in asbestos. I'll take my chances, you know? And that's it. So when you're left with the most important question, why should I be a Jew? And people give up even trying to ask the question because they don't get an answer. Mark Twain said, when all else fails, try the truth. And I want to tell you the real reason why a person should be a Jew. I'm going to be quoting from the classic work Mesilas Yesharim by Reb Moshe Chaim Luzzatto because I give an ongoing shiur in this. Some of the shiurim are downloadable from my website, Orlofsky.com. And this whole thing has actually just been an infomercial. But anyway, and I have a podcast. But anyway, so I used to have to sit in the mikveh and complain to 3 or 4 people. Now I can do it to 10,000 people at the same time. I'm sitting in my living room going, how come people do this? And people watch it. Go figure. Anyway, but why should we? So the Mesilas Yesharim says like this. I'm just going to see the first 2 lines. The book was written to teach you how to become perfect. I finished it a number of times. I got stuck on humility, but once I got that down, well, I was perfect. Anyway, so I have to say at this point, humility, probably one of my best traits. But anyhow, of all my great traits. Anyway, so he says like this. The root and foundation of all religiosity, of everything, spirituality, of everything, is to answer one question: why are you alive? Such a simple question, so hard to answer. I was talking to a group of guys in their 20s about marriage, and I said, you know, before you get married, you have to marry somebody who has the same goals in life with you, and you have to figure out what your goals in life are. Does anyone here yet know what their goals in life are? So a guy says, I do. So what's your goal in life? I'm going to be a dentist. I said, that's not your goal in life. He says, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. He says, I'm in dental school. I said, I'll prove it to you. He says, go ahead. You're 80, 90, 100 years old. You're on your deathbed. Right? They're writing your eulogy. He was a dentist. He filled many cavities. He removed many impacted teeth. He was especially good with molars. The guy says, stop. I said, no, I'm getting to the best part. Your tombstone is a big tooth. And it says, here lies a dentist. He says, no, you misunderstood. I said, yeah, because I didn't mean my goal in life is to be a dentist. I meant I want to support my family from dentistry. I said, oh, that's not your goal in life. Right. What is? I have no idea. Whenever anyone asked me, I used to tell them, I want to be a dentist. And I said, good for you. Because we all know the recipe for a successful life. We've all learned it. You go to university, and you get a degree, and you get a job, and you make money, and you buy a house, and you get married, and you have a few kids. Happy life. Now you're 45, and you have all that. Now what do? Get old and die. That's about it. Some people figured out they could play twice. They get another wife, another house, the new kids, you know, go around the board 2 times. You know what I'm saying? I forgot how terrible this shit really is. My gosh, I haven't given this in years, but oh my gosh. Anyway, it hits too close on too many issues. But anyway, now most people are not that dramatic. Most people are content just to have a midlife crisis. Have you ever seen people having a midlife? I'm talking about the gray ponytail people out on the dance floor. You've seen these people at Simchas, barely alive, barely alive. That's a great move. No, it's my back. I can't move. You know, they want to show that they're still happening. That's why there are oldie stations, so that these old idiots can feel like they're still happening when they obviously happened a long time ago, you know? And so, you know, they open up a couple of buttons, a little gray grizzly chest hair, you know what I mean? You know, they get themselves a sports car, but they can't get into it because they're not so flexible anymore, you know, and eventually they realize how ridiculous they look, and they come home content just to be old. Start wearing their trousers up to here, get the orthopedic sneakers, take 2 minutes to sit down, and fall asleep all the time, watching TV, reading the paper in the middle of a conversation. They keep falling asleep, and they always deny it. No, I'm not. I wish I could sleep. I'm up all. They're always sleeping. They always deny it. You know what I'm saying? And this is how it goes until they reach into their 80s, when they reach the ultimate status symbol, which is comparing medications with other elderly people. There's nothing more fun than that. You take this, I take it too. How much? 20? I take 60! I'm sicker than you are. The more medical science struggles to keep me alive, the more inherently valuable I am. Now, I said this year over many years ago, and someone said to me, I heard this. And I said, where? Because I don't know, I'll find it. And he sends me a clip from a movie called City Slickers with Billy Crystal. And he's talking to a 3rd grade class. And he says, enjoy this time of your life. It's the best part. 3rd grade. You're a teenager, you think you can do anything, and you try. Your 20s are a blur. Your 30s, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you say, what happened to my 20s? Your 40s, start losing your hair, grow another chin. One of your old girlfriends from high school becomes a grandmother. 50s, you'll have a minor operation. You'll call it a procedure, but it's an operation. You can't go out anymore because the music's too loud. The 60s, the music's still too loud, but doesn't matter because you can't hear it anyway. You'll have a major operation. The 70s, you and the wife move to Florida, start having supper 4 o'clock in the afternoon, lunch 10 o'clock in the morning, breakfast the night before. Wander around malls looking for the ultimate frozen yogurt. In the 80s, you'll have a stroke. You'll be taken care of by a Jamaican woman that your wife can't stand and you call mama. That's life right there. That's what it's all about. So when a person turns around and they say, why am I alive? Listen, let's face it. You don't appreciate this, right? When I was a kid, you saw somebody who was 70, they were old. Yeah, the 70-year-old woman had white hair in a bun. The man was already deaf, walking with a cane. Buzz, 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 you know what I mean? And that was it. So that was it, because you basically lived till then. You know, you retired at 65, played golf for 5 years, and died. That's how it worked, right? You almost never saw anyone in their 80s. Today, people in their 80s are out playing tennis. I do tours to Europe. 80-year-olds are running around, you know, doing all kinds of stuff. And you meet people in their 90s. So everyone in this room is going to live to about 100, just b'derech hateva. Amen. I'm saying hopefully more than that, but just derech hateva. Yeah? So you plan out your life till 45? You're not even halfway through. So why are you alive? And here is his answer. Why God created us and put us in this world? For one purpose, to get pleasure from God and enjoy the light of the divine presence. Because this is the greatest pleasure and delight that there is. I read this to a group of yeshiva guys once. I said, what did he say? Why are we alive? He said, to serve God. Nope. Listen again. To get pleasure from God and enjoy the divine light, because that's the greatest pleasure that there is. Why were we created? To get the divine light. Wrong. I'm sure I heard divine light. Right. Now listen to the entire sentence. I know it's taxing. To get pleasure from God and enjoy the divine light, because that's the greatest pleasure that there is. We were created for only one purpose, to get the greatest possible pleasure. God doesn't need anything. He's infinite. In scientific terms, that means very big. He's okay. He has very high self-esteem. Wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, sees nothing. He's fine. He can do anything he wants. He has no problems. He has no needs, no wants, no anything. He had to have created the world only for you to get the greatest pleasure. The problem is, the devil's in the details. There's so many pleasures. How do you know which one to choose? How do you choose pleasure? I'll take something simple for a non-Jew, and so difficult for a Jew. A buffet. Goyim just don't get it. They walk over, first thing they see, they take a plate and they sit down. A Jew looks at that buffet as a challenge. He says, I can eat all that food. I just can't. So the goal is to eat the most of the most expensive thing. You never see a Jew take a plate. He walks around it first, planning it out like a military campaign, tasting here, sniffing here, and then he starts collecting plates. I said this once, and the guy who does the buying for the Ramada Renaissance, he says, when I have a non-Jewish group, I buy 1-to-1. If it's 50 people, I do 50 rolls, 50 Danishes. If it's an American Jewish group, 3-to-1. An Israeli Jewish group, 5-to-1. Understand? And they just keep eating and eating, so like the Incredible Hulk, they start to expand. And when I couldn't eat another bite, they say, dessert, oh, dessert, okay, roll me over. But even then you can't eat it all. You're going to have to make choices. And life is going to be filled with making choices. Very seldom between good and evil. Between what you think is the greatest pleasure, because there's so many good things in this world. I know people who travel the world. One of the great things about living in Eretz Yisrael is that you meet people who are traveling from their way from India to China. They're going to, here and there in Europe. And they stop in Israel and they end up in my house sometimes for Shabbos. And they say, I love traveling, and when I run out of money, I get a job wherever I am. I get enough money to start traveling again. I said, but you'll never know what it's like to be part of a community. Maybe that's better. A person who flits from relationship to relationship will never know what it's like to have a 50th wedding anniversary. Maybe it's better. Yeah. A person who's a workaholic is never going to have time to spend time with his kids. Maybe that's better. And life is filled with making choices, and most people don't go for the best pleasure. They just go for the easiest one that's there. And that's why I've met people who had an opportunity to have an office affair. And they ended up losing their marriage and seeing their kids on alternate weekends. And I said, what were you thinking? And they said, we weren't. I just saw the opportunity and I took it, and I didn't think if it would be anything more. And so life is about trying to decide what's going to bring you the greatest happiness. Look it over, because you can't have it all. You're going to have to make a choice. You can stay in the office or have a relationship with your kids, but you can't do it both. You can go from relationship to relationship or have a beautiful marriage, but you can't do it both. You're going to have to make choices. So, says the Mesilas Yesharim, if you think, what would be the greatest pleasure? An infinite pleasure. A pleasure that gets better and better and better and better and better, and we don't even know what that means. Because what's a pleasure? Pretzels. And how many can you eat while it's still enjoyable? 3, maybe 4. Then your teeth get covered with chewed up pretzel gunk, and everything tastes like nothing. And that's where you see everyone has this love-hate relationship, like, oh, get these away from me. And then they pull them back, and I hope they'll be better, and they never are. But imagine a bag of pretzels that never ran out, and you never got full, and there was no pretzel gunk, and each pretzel tasted better than the one before. That's an infinite pleasure. It just gets better and better and better. And infinite pleasure can only come from one place, and that's from God, the infinite source. I can't speak for anybody else here. God was not a part of my Jewish education. God was up on the wall like Big Brother in 1984. He was there to burn you in hell. That was it. Somebody said to me once, I pictured God on a mountain with a lightning bolt. I said, that's Zeus. I said, you're not even up to monotheism yet. You know, you're still with the gods on Mount Olympus. You know, that's how I picture God. He's just out to get me. I asked him once, how do you picture God? He goes, a big frowning face in the sky saying, I'm going to get you. I said, you're not so bad. He goes, I know, but I figure other people have excuses and I don't. I'm going to burn in hell. There was a guy who was in one of these yeshivas for the religiously and emotionally challenged. And it was second year and he was more or less sober. And, oh, you know the place? Anyway, so I said to him, so what happens when you die? He goes, you know, you go to Olam. I said, what's that like? You know, it's like a beach, cold beer. And he continued developing the picture. I'm sure you can work it out for yourself. Suffice it to say, it was closer to the Muslim conception than the Jewish conception. My goodness, I didn't realize how incredibly inappropriate I actually am. No wonder you asked me not to do this one for 3 years. Anyway, but I said, is that what you think Olam Haba is? He goes, no, I wish. I said, so what is it really? He says, you sit on a cloud and you play a harp. I said, do you like harp music? He says, no, not really. I said, so what do? I'll get an electric harp. You know, put my halo on sideways, rocking on cloud 9. I said, okay. So if you're good, you get a cloud and a harp, and if you're bad, then God burns you in hell forever. I said, that makes sense to you? He says, yeah. I said, you know what it's like? A father says to his daughter, your room is a mess. If you clean it up, I'll buy you a new outfit and take you out for dinner. And if you don't, I'll break your arm and beat you till you're bloody. I said, what would you do? He says, I'd call social services. The man is insane. But that's how you picture God? If you're good, you get a cloud and a harp, and if you're bad, you burn in hell forever? Our dysfunctional Father who art in heaven. You understand? So if the greatest pleasure is being able to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we've been brainwashed that God's out to get us. There were these billboards that were taken out about 25 years ago. They took a picture of all of them and made them into a book. They were all signed by God. I don't think God actually took them out, but I'm not sure. Anyway, they were like, I wrote a book, why don't you read it? God, you know. Which part of thou shalt not don't you get? God. Things like this. But there was one that made such an impression on me. It says, but I believe in you. People are so worried whether or not they believe in God. But God says, I believe in you. You know how many from people I met and said, I don't think it makes a difference to God whether I'm in the world or not. I said, make no mistake about it. He has no shortage of ways of getting rid of you. So if you're still here, it's because he thinks there's something you can do in this world that nobody else can do. There's something special that you can do. He believes in you. And so he put you in this world for one reason, to get this unbelievable pleasure that comes from being close to God. That's the only reason we're alive. And a person who comes into this world and just does mitzvahs and doesn't know why and doesn't understand it and never gets that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu missed the whole thing. God doesn't need you to eat a matzah. He doesn't get a thrill out of hearing the crunch. You know what I mean? Oh, look, there's a Seder. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh, look, God, there's another one here. Crunch. I love this time of year. You know, he doesn't need to hear you eat a matzah. You understand? All the mitzvahs are there for one purpose, to make this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu so that you can get this infinite pleasure that gets better and better and better and better. That lifts you out of this world. Anyone here from England? Okay. That level of enthusiasm proves it. Anyway, you can attest that what I'm about to say is true, and that is, I've been in England many times, and sometimes you can be in England for a week straight and never see the sun. It is always dark and drizzly, which is why so many English people sound the way they do. And I don't mean this in a bad way. It's just that I remember reading in the 1980s that McDonald's had to change their international policy. Because in every country, wherever you are, in McDonald's, when you give the person their change in their local language, you have to say, thank you, have a nice day. And this article said that English people were being infuriated by this because they didn't want to have a nice day, and they objected to being told to. So then in England, in McDonald's, you could just put down the money and say, right then. That was good enough. Anyway, so this guy says, I was in England, I didn't see the sun. And then the plane took off, we got above the clouds, and suddenly the sun was shining and the sky was blue. And I said, the sky was always blue and the sun was always shining, you just didn't know how to get above the clouds. The point of all of mitzvahs, all of Torah, all of Judaism is one thing, to teach you how to get above the clouds, to be able to live in the light. Or as somebody said to me once, that half smile that plays on the lips of Gedolei Torah. To be able to be in the light when everybody else is in the darkness, to be able to live a life where you have that divine light that comes from being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the entire purpose. That's the only reason that we're Jewish. And if we can teach that to our children and show them that we have something better than what's out there, offer them something else. And I used to teach in Discovery and in the fellowships in Eshet Torah, so every now and then a guy would say to me, you're the biggest challenge to my religious lifestyle, Rabbi. I said, really? Which class? He goes, no, I don't listen when you talk. I said, okay. What is it? He goes, I'm living a secular lifestyle and I can do whatever I want. And I know you're living this restrictive lifestyle and I can't help but feel you're having more fun in life than I am. And I said, kills you, doesn't it? You got it. Orthodox Jews have the party, right? You loser. Anyway, if we can show our kids that we have something better, then we have an answer to give to our children and our grandchildren when they ask us why we should be Jewish. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well then.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to start right away. If you have to run to the bathroom, we're going to drink, do it. We're starting literally with 1 minute. So we're going to set up here with 12 heads. If you're not going to the bathroom, get a drink, stay in your seat, relax. Take a deep breath. If you want cold, come down lower. No, now come to